In this video, we'll explore the latest research showing that the temperature of our rooms in our homes can affect our mental and physical health for the better or worse, potentially even putting our life or the lives of our family at risk. We'll then explain why controlling the temperature of our rooms is one of the easiest ways for anyone to optimize their health. And then we'll reveal what the ideal temperatures for each room in our home should be for any budget. But first, how does temperature affect our mood and mental health? And why is this a real concern? How does heat and cold affect our physical health? What is the ideal temperature for each room in your home? And finally, we'll talk about building design. What is the best way to control indoor temperatures? So how does temperature affect our mood and mental health? And why is this a real concern? Can you think of a time when you felt frustrated, irritable, or anxious because of being uncomfortably hot and sweaty or freezing cold, maybe even snapping at your family or friends? Well, what made you react in that way in that moment? Well, one possibility could be the effect of temperature on our physical and mental state and the effect that has on our mood-related hormones. Our mental health and mood is not just affected by what's within our minds, but also what is externally influencing our body and perhaps even subconsciously. We often underestimate the power of this external influence. We might feel a certain way in a certain moment, sometimes not even knowing exactly why we feel that way, but it could be that our environment is affecting us in ways we may not have thought about before. Our indoor climate can make or break any activity or state of mind, including our short and long-term physical health. In uncomfortably hot and cold environments, the stress and alertness hormone cortisol increases because the body perceives uncomfortable temperatures as a literal threat to its survival, which causes our stress levels to rise. How then does this affect our mood? Well, all the normal symptoms of stress can present themselves, like becoming easily frustrated and moody, feeling overwhelmed or out of control, having a hard time relaxing, experiencing an increase in negative emotions about yourself or others, not to mention a myriad of other physical, mental, emotional, and behavioral symptoms related to stress. For purely our mental health, this is a real concern, especially if the uncomfortable temperature or climate persists over a long period of time. It can seriously affect things like depression, anxiety, our relationships with others, and overall productivity. Not to mention that chronically increased cortisol levels can lead to physical stress-related health problems over the long term that can shorten our lives through decreased cardiovascular function, increased risk of stroke, and other physical symptoms that are associated with stress. Now, it is important to note that we're talking about more extreme temperatures here. So there's no need to panic if your room temperature is just a few degrees above optimal for a short period of time. But here at the HomeLine Project, we're interested in how to optimize our environments to get the most out of our life, improving our mental and physical health to the highest degree possible through intentional and thoughtful building design. So we've touched on how temperature can impact our mood and mental health. But how does heat and cold affect our physical health? Just a quick one. I want you to live a happier, healthier, and longer life in your beautiful home. So I put a huge amount of time and effort into these videos to find the best research sources, poring over literature and studies, and applying our nearly 20 years of home building design experience to solve these complex home health related problems. And I do this for you completely free of charge. And I enjoy it. I love it. All I ask in return is that you click the like button so that this valuable information can reach more people that may desperately need it. So now back to the video to find out how your indoor temperature affects your physical health. When I was young, I suffered from pretty bad cases of heat stroke. I don't know if you've had heat stroke before, but the first thing would be fatigue and a sort of delirium. Then I'd get a really bad headache. And once that came on, the only end result would eventually be uncontrollable vomiting. Lovely, I know. After that, the only way I could cure it was to sleep it off in a cooler room. Not fun. Now, I know it's not just me that's affected by heat in this way. In fact, studies have shown an association between high indoor temperatures and adverse health effects like all-cause mortality. That's literally what it says. All-cause mortality, meaning death. Heat stroke, hypothermia, dehydration, and these health outcomes also tend to increase hospital admissions as well. So often, high indoor temperatures are due to high outside temperatures, particularly in extreme cases like heat waves. And many studies and public health records have shown that heat waves increase the rate of death during the extent of the extreme heat, not to mention just the physical, mental, and emotional distress in environments where people have no access to a means of relief from the heat. In relation to how higher temperatures affect our overall health, in a recent cross-sectional study in England in 2023, they found that for every 1 degree of temperature increase above 26 degrees Celsius, the risk of poor health increased by 1.7%. Now that may not seem like much, but that's an increase of 1 degree affecting long-term health by nearly 2%. So it's worthy of consideration when we're trying to optimize our longevity. And while we're on the subject of heat, we have to talk about our sleep. How do you feel when you don't get the right amount of quality sleep? I know if that happens to me, I certainly don't feel like I can function at my optimum levels. We know that our sleep is one of the primary factors that influence overall physical, mental, and emotional health. In one particular study in the Netherlands, they found an increase of every 1 degree Celsius of indoor temperature over 21 degrees Celsius raised the risk of sleep disturbance by 24%. And to fall asleep, our bodies have to reduce in temperature by 0.5 degree to 1 degree Celsius. Since the result of our sleep affects everything we do when we're awake, we should do everything we can to maximize our sleep quality, quantity, regularity, and timing, or QQRT, as popularized by Dr. Matthew Walker, one of the world's foremost sleep scientists. Shortly, we'll go through the ideal room temperatures for each room in your house, including the ideal temperatures to help you fall asleep more easily. But first, did you know that the cold can severely affect our health? The World Health Organization has conducted research on various studies, and they found a strong link between colder indoor temperatures and a moderate increased risk of death, morbidity they call it, from respiratory disease and heart disease. In relation to respiratory disease like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or COPD, which is very common, one cross-sectional study in adults with COPD found they enjoyed better health with more hours of indoor temperatures at or above 21 degrees Celsius. Now in children with asthma, that's around 10% of kids. Another study found that every 1 degree increase of room temperature below 9 degrees was associated with significant increase in lung function. So just to review that again, when the temperature is below 9 degrees, for every increase of room temperature by 1 degree, they found a significant increase in lung function. Another study in China showed reduced respiratory issues of all kinds when indoor temperatures were set at 18.2 degrees Celsius, regardless of humidity. So if you or your children suffer from any respiratory symptoms, temperature control is going to be of paramount importance in your home. So what if you don't have asthma or COPD? Well, chances are you probably have a beating heart, so you're not out of the woodwork yet. Did you know that the cold can increase your blood pressure? Yes, that's right. The cold can increase your blood pressure. Now, high blood pressure increases your risk of heart disease, stroke, chronic kidney disease, and diabetes complications. In 2 randomized trials in Japan, one study showed that people living in colder homes suffered from high blood pressure. They found a significant association between lower temperatures and higher blood pressure for every 1 degree increase in indoor temperatures. Another study in Scotland found that people in housing heated to under 18 degrees Celsius had a greater risk of high blood pressure. And in the UK, one study observed that for every 1 degree of increase in room temperature, they found a decrease in blood pressure. So if you have any high blood pressure or heart-related health concerns, you really need to look at ensuring that you're not subject to any sustained colder temperatures. So from this substantial evidence, the WHO concluded that warming a house to above 18 degrees Celsius would reduce the risk of death from respiratory and heart disease and increase longevity. So we've just highlighted a couple of the major health improvements that can be had by ensuring you set the temperature of your indoor environment so that you can improve your general health and longevity. So that brings us to the specifics. What are the ideal temperatures for each room in the home then? From the evidence and studies available, the WHO concluded that maintaining an indoor temperature of between 18 to 24 degrees Celsius was ideal to minimize adverse health outcomes that may be attributed to temperature. So here they are. The ideal temperatures in your home by room are: living areas, 21 to 24 degrees Celsius in summer and 18 to 22 degrees Celsius in winter. In the kitchen, 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. Now the temperature in our kitchen's a little cooler so that our body temperature isn't affected adversely by the cooking appliances and the constant movement or exercise while we're cooking. Have you ever noticed you warmed up while cooking? In the bedroom, 19 to 21 degrees in summer and 16 to 18 degrees Celsius in winter. To fall asleep, our body temperature needs to lower by 0.5 degree to 1 degree so that we can fall asleep, but our body warms up during the night and we get sweaty. You've probably woken up sweaty once or twice during the night. What about our bathrooms? We set our bathrooms at 21 to 24 degrees Celsius. It's a bit warmer to comfortably remove all your clothing and not be freezing at the same time. And in our bathrooms, the higher humidity is welcome. But it's important, of course, to be able to control the humidity, and for reasons why we'll talk about in our next video. With so many people working from home these days, what's the ideal home office temperature? We recommend between 19 to 22 degrees Celsius and making sure that it's humidity controlled so that we can avoid sweating and discomfort through the contact with the desk, the mouse and the keyboard. Cooler temperatures in the office help to facilitate clear thinking. Keeping a cooler, though not noticeably uncomfortable cool temperature, can help with focus and attention in the office. What about a home gym? We recommend between 18 to 21 degrees Celsius. It's a little cooler to facilitate body cooling during significant cardio output, which raises our body temperatures so that we can control that. But how do you control the temperature of each room in your house? This could be really difficult or expensive, right? Well, it doesn't have to be hard. Let's look at a couple of both completely free options and building design related temperature control mechanisms. Building design. What's the main goal here? Well, our goal is to gain a high level of control and stability over the temperature and humidity within our indoor environments. Now, when trying to control a room's temperature, we need to consider what's within our control and budget. The truth is, you may not have control over a lot of these things, especially if you're living in an existing home or you're renting. But try and focus on what you can control. Here are some common factors that influence a room's temperature stability, sorted by cost. Let's look at the free options first, the aesthetic options. Now, some of these might seem obvious, but bear with me. Clothing selection and layering. This might seem really obvious, but dress for optimal body temperature. If you're feeling hot, take it off. If you're feeling cold, put it on. What about our glass and windows and doors? Well, opening and closing the curtains and blinds can help us control temperature. And ventilation, opening and closing doors and windows can help control temperature. One thing that we want to be careful of to assist us with temperature control is draft control. So controlling the drafts that come through underneath or around doorways or windows. If it's cold, put a rolled up towel down the bottom of the doors. What about our furnishings in our home? Well, our first go-to would be ceiling fans or floor standing fans. This can help us to control the heat and cool us when we need to be cooled. And of course, when it's too cold, we use heaters. You can get various types of heaters, ranging in price from very cheap to more expensive. Window covering selection. So covering our windows in thick blinds will help us to control the temperature more so than thinner blinds. External shade devices can assist with blocking out heat before it even enters our home, which is a great option. This could entail just tall potted plants outside the windows. And of course, placing a rug on a cold floor will help to stabilize the temperature in the room. Now looking at our next category, building work. Of course, air conditioning is a great way to heat and cool the home. A split cycle air conditioner can be very efficient. Insulation within walls and ceilings can really help to control and stabilize temperatures. External shading like eaves and natural planting. External building colors and materials can help control temperature. Room positioning and building design. Living areas on the north, bedrooms on the south in the southern hemisphere. Reverse that if you're in the northern hemisphere. And the glass type that we use in windows and doors. We can control temperature more easily if there's more glass or it's tinted. So for instance, tinted glass or low E glass or double glazing. These can all help to control and stabilize temperatures. And of course, there's the window type we choose. Window types can really affect how much airflow can come through the window. So choose windows that are going to maximize the airflow where possible. And there's also inbuilt methods of heating, such as wood and gas fireplaces. We'll talk about this a little more in our next video, because we really need to watch out for air pollution with these devices. The internal textures of materials within the building can really have an effect on the temperature stability. Whether it's tiled floors or carpet floors or timber, they all have an effect on temperature. So there's 3 categories of ways of cost that we can control the temperature and stabilize the temperature within our home. Of course, there are more. You may know of some, and I'd love to hear them in the comments below. But indoor temperature is only one part of your indoor environment. There's many other parts of your daily indoor environment that also need to be controlled. One of the most important is, of course, air quality. Did you know in 2020 it was estimated that up to 3.2 million people died from household air pollution, including 237,000 children under the age of 5. But why is this happening? How is the air quality in your home affecting your health? Find out the solutions in our next episode, where we take a deep dive into air quality within your home, and we provide practical steps to make sure you're not putting your family's lives at risk by improving your home's design one step at a time. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss this potentially life-changing episode. It's important to note that I'm not a doctor. This advice is general in nature and it doesn't consider your personal health and circumstances. So before making any drastic decisions, you should always consult your doctor on anything that could affect your health. I hope you've enjoyed this definitive guide to indoor temperature and how it affects your health. I'm Sam, and I'll see you in the next video.